some fun Christmas music, wasn't it? Hi. All right. Thank you, my dear. Ah! Yay! Gotten 2 subs today. Hey, Mario Dim. Thank you so much. And Jill, my darling, thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Hype train. Yeah, I guess 2 subs gets me a hype train. Awesome. So happy Monday. Yeah, that was some pretty decent music, Jill. These instrumental Christmassy holiday things. I have avoided the holiday music thus far, except for these playlists. So they're, I think they're a little bit lower key. Like, I will probably lose it when I hear Mariah Carey. That's the point where I'm like, turn off the Christmas music. I can't do Mariah Carey. So I have some fun things in store for you today, I hope. Oh my goodness. Ah, what is this? Oh, we have something. We have tiny things today, don't we? Yeah. All right. Well, you're going to have to go sit over there while we look at tiny things. So we'll get to this in a minute. Okay. All right. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. I was a little bit productive. I also slept till like noonish, both days. I had to get up early this morning, but yay, tiny things, right? Yeah. They are totally, completely not quilting, sewing, or anything related. They're just cute, tiny things. So Jill has been listening to the Christmas. You know, there's a radio station here, and I can't remember. I have it programmed in my car, like on the third set of FM stations, so I don't accidentally listen to it during the rest of the year, because I can't remember. It's like an easy listening station. It's not even yacht rock. It's like the super easy listening. But yeah, I'll probably tune into it in a week or so. I need the buffer. I just can't. I can't go directly from Thanksgiving to Christmas. I just need a buffer. Yeah, so today, you guys, we are starting a new book. So first of all, this is the book we're going to start, The Heritage of Cotton by MDC Crawford. And this book was written in the 20s. Let's see. And it might be a British book. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is. Where is that front page? 1924. The Knickerbocker Press. Yeah, G.P. Putnam and Sons, New York and London. So I don't know if this writer is UK or I don't know. American Museum of Natural History. So this might be an American writer. Anyway, so we're going to start reading that. See how it goes. Yes, Jill has the really awesome version of this. And I have to say, I have to give our friend Julia a shout out. She is a quilt dealer, and she lives near Jill. And so Jill has gotten, elbow deep in her collection and her inventory. And she was kind enough to gift this book to us. And Jill already had it, so I got this one. And Jill has the one that has a beautiful fabric cover, so... Congratulations, Marodim. Oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. Oh, babies are the best. And yeah, let Christmas wait for a hot minute, but yeah, Christmas with a new baby. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. My son was born in October, so he was going on 3 months old at Christmas, so it was a lot of fun doing all the baby's first Christmas stuff. Aw. So she's a granddaughter. That's wonderful. Congratulations. And I don't know if it's your son or daughter that is the parent, but congratulations to them. So we'll start this today. But I want to say this book is from the 20s. I don't know what's out of date, what has been proven or disproven, but this is a modern book called Empire of Cotton. And this is by Sven Beckert. So this is Empire of Cotton, A Global History. I can't read this one online because obviously there would be big copyright issues. But I'm gonna try to read this one probably after Christmas, so on my own, and then I can maybe give you, you know, some whatever, some information on this. I'm really curious to know, like, what's the difference, and it seems like, just at first glance, I have not really done any reading ahead. This book kind of reminds me of the Chintz book by our dear friend MacGyver Percival. It kind of seems like it's written in the same, I don't know, not necessarily the same voice, but kind of that 1920s style of writing. So I believe this will be fun. All right, before we get to that, though, I have two things. First of all, we'll get to this in a minute. Druid sent me a really cool Instagram, or I think it was Threads, video of a woman long arming. And she's doing a little bit of ruler work, but mostly she's freehanding some stuff. And if you missed it, Jill and I, oh gosh, was it Saturday? I think it was Saturday. We did a pop-up and we looked at the electric needle show that just came down at the New England Quilt Museum. I think it came down, was it maybe a month ago or so? It was an amazing exhibit, curated by Pam Weeks, I believe. And there were quilts, that were, brand new contemporary quilt artists. There were older, antique quilts. And, everything had been either machine quilted and pieced or machine quilted. So it was really interesting to look at those. Anyway, one of the artists, Karen McTavish, has like some videos on how she long arms. Thank you. Anita Lascalzo. Thank you. Didn't want to leave her out. So I looked at Karen McTavish's videos. I did do a little bit of watching ahead just to see what her cadence was, because one of the videos is really long and we're not going to watch the whole thing, but I thought we could look at bits and pieces of it because I've watched long arm videos before, but I have never seen anybody kind of do it from like start to finish. And so I think it might be kind of cool to like dip in there and look at a few things. So that will be what we're doing today. But first, we have to look at tiny things. So I know I mentioned a few weeks ago that I have had this recent insanity where I've gotten really into mini brands, and my niece introduced me to mini brands several years ago. And if you're not aware of mini brands, they're itty bitty teeny tiny little replicas of brands, and they're brands you recognize. I'll show you in a minute. And they have made this deal with this company. I think they're called Zuru, and they come in these eggs. And they're our friend Tish mentioned. I think maybe one of her grandchildren might collect them. They are the worst as far as non-recyclable waste, because all this stuff comes individually wrapped. But they're so darn fun. And this season I've been trying to really stay within budget as far as holiday shopping. We don't really do Christmas presents so much. We'll do things for my mom, and I usually give my son obviously a Christmas present, but otherwise we don't do a whole lot of stuff. So my son and I have been picking some of these little eggs up. And so I have a tiny little collection now. And this one is actually not the same company. It is a competitor. But this is actually a Christmas ornament. And I thought this was so cute. I wanted to put it together online. And I'll show you what everything includes. But to glue it all together, it uses UV gel. So the stuff that you'd put on fingernails. And I'm like, well, first of all, this is supposed to be for a child, and that's terrifying that they're just handing out UV gel. And I think the instructions are you're supposed to take the thing outside and let the sun cure it. But I know that doesn't work well, so I actually have a little UV light because I do the things with my nails. So that's what I'm going to use. I think I'm gonna build it offline and I will have it to show you on Thursday. I wanted to build it for you, live, but I'm going to get this gel everywhere and I don't want it all over my desk. So I'll show you all the pieces. It's so cute. So first of all, let me switch over. You see my messy desk. So these are some mini brands, and I will show you. These are some of my treasured ones. So you could see, I mean, look how tiny. It's Armor All. Like itty bitty Armor All. Teeny tiny crayons. Or crayons. Or crayons. However you say it. How does everybody say Crayola? Was it crayon? Crayon? Crown? This was something some friends of mine and I used to get into, because I grew up saying crayon. And she grew up in Minnesota, between Minnesota and Wisconsin, and she said crowns. So like crowns, like you'd wear in your head. And I'm like, that's not how that's pronounced. And then I discovered that people also say crayon. So crayon, okay, crayon. It's so funny, the regional. Do you guys remember, oh gosh, this was probably 2011 or 2012. There was some newspaper that did, regional dialects. And based on, they ask you all these questions. And one of them, I think, was how you say crayon. And, what do you call, like, something that, like basically a rubber band. People in Pennsylvania, like around Pittsburgh, they call it a gum band instead of a rubber band. So things like that. It was the coolest thing. And I don't know how scientifically legitimate it was, but it did, based on my dialect and the things I say and the way I pronounce things, it came up with Virginia, North Carolina for me. And that makes sense because that's where my family's from. Look at this. Is this not the stinking cutest thing? It's a little floppy disk and it's in a little folder. These are just disgustingly cute. This one's probably my prized possession. You can see it's a little Pez container. And I'm sorry that this camera doesn't want to. Pasty white skin. Maybe it'll. But I mean, it's literally like a little plastic, and there's the stuff in there. I got some Energizer batteries. They're literally in the little case, just like batteries. I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. It is so cute. This one I had to trade my son, I think, for this one. It's an itty bitty little cassette tape. Now, the only problem with these things is there's no consistency as far as, like, things that are, I don't know, for like legit miniatures. I think, they do 1/12, 1/6, whatever. But you could see, like, the cassette tape and the bottle of Armor All are not the right, they're not the right, I don't know, what do you call it? The fractional amount. Like, if you had a doll that was the right size to use this would be really big. And yes, proportions. Thank you. Scale. Thank you. Yeah. So, that's a little disappointing. Like, you could not use these all in the same dollhouse or with all the same doll, but they're fun. Dum-dums. Little dum-dums. These are from the retro. This is bumming me out that you can't really see these very well. They're not. And then the pièce de résistance, which was actually the cassette, but this one's pretty good too. My little VHS tape. Very cute. Okay. So that's those. Samaradum says, scale's not important unless you're making a scene. Exactly. Yes. Just to have like a little container of cute things. Yeah, that's cool. If you're just going to display them. But I kind of do want them for, maybe to put together a diorama. I mean, I feel like it feels a little wasteful to me to collect these things and just have them in a container. I want to make some type of display or something with them. And I have a couple of cool dolls that maybe need some items. So now here's the part. You guys are going to laugh at me. Now, I mentioned we don't really do Christmas presents so much, or we do very minimal Christmas presents, but we do. Do you remember Phoebe's dog that went with it? Yes! Oh my gosh! Phoebe's dollhouse was the best. And it was so heartbreaking when it caught on fire. Spoiler alert. Yes. It was the giant dog, and then all the other stuff was all weird sizes. And it was the best because it was, Monica had like the fancy one, the fancy dollhouse. So anyway, we don't really do the Christmas presents as much, but we do advent calendars. You guys might remember last year I had the Bon Maman, which is the delicious jams and jellies. And I think we discovered they don't make jam, they make jellies, if I remember correctly. But I did, and they were the itty bitty bottles, and I got to taste, 24, 25 of them, whatever. And that was a lot of fun. And I wrote them up on Instagram and everything. But this year I did not get the jams and jellies. I found this. This is the Mini Brands Advent Calendar. I didn't think they had it, but they do. And of course, it being December 2nd, I have already opened 2 of them. This box contains what appears to be mostly toys. So, the 2 little toys I've gotten so far are this, which is Angelica from Rugrats, little posable action figure kind of thing. And then this is called Blaze Speedway. I don't know if this is like one of the Cars characters or something. So I don't know. And this is cute. I mean, it's just a little cardboard box, but this was fun because my son watched Rugrats when he was little. So these toys are not, retro in any way. They're not things I remember from my childhood, but I do remember from my son's childhood. So it's fun. And he's really into these now, and like we're trading them, and we've got plans the holidays to go, see my niece and nephew. And of course my niece, I think, is probably starting to outgrow this stuff. So we're like, what can we trade her? Maybe I could bring her something so good that she'll want to trade. I don't know. She plays soccer, and she's really into like all these soccer players. And I'm like, all right, if I can get her like a jersey or something like that, maybe she'll trade us for some more mini brands. So anyway. Robin says, last night we played the newest update of Clue, and the candlestick is taller than the character figures. Of course. It would be just too fun to be able to put the knife in one of their hands. All the weapons are too big, yeah. Oh, your younger son rated your board games collection. Yeah. Oh, gosh, we have some board games. I probably need to find somebody that likes board games to give some of ours away too. We have tons of trivia games and stuff. So let's look at what's in here, and I'll show you what the building looks like of this. So I put this together a little bit, but it came all wrapped just like one of those these Mini Brands balls. Like I said, this is the competitor, which I think is Miniverse by Mega Miniverse. I don't know. The reason I bought this is I knew it was going to be a little craft kit sort of thing, but their super rare version of this has the National Lampoon's Christmas stuff, which included the Marty Moose glasses. And so I was like, ooh, if there's any chance I could get that one. But alas, I did not. I got my second favorite, which is the Yule log. So these things they come with all those little papers. But these are your options. You might get the tree, you might get the Yule log, or you might get the charcuterie platter, which was also very cute. And then here's the Marty Moose glasses. Kind of hard to see. But apparently this comes with, the Marty Moose thing came with eggnog, and of course the glasses, cinnamon sticks, I think some little cinnamon dust. This is like a little decorative tray, and then the Jam and Jelly of the Month Club coupon. If you've never seen National Lampoon's Christmas, this is probably all you're like, what? But hopefully you've seen that movie, which is ridiculous. It's with Chevy Chase. And so these will look familiar. But anyway, and you see here on the back, they have like all of the building instructions for these things. So I will be building the Yule log. And you see, like, I mean, literally, you're icing this thing and you're sticking these little decorations on, and there's little tweezers and everything. So, and then these are the, read me first. Don't let your kids eat this stuff. I mean, you see all of these different danger, danger, and all these different languages. Okay. So, this little thing snaps on. And then, let's see, this little thing is going to go in here. And then this little doodad goes on top of that. So this is like, it's going to end up sitting in there, the little craft. So, I mean, look at this. It's a little tiny cake stand with a little tiny fancy liner. And then here's the little cake, the little Yule log itself. I mean, it looks just like a little bakery Yule log, and it's in a little container just like you would buy, you know, at the store. I think about Wegmans. If you guys have a Wegmans in your area, they have all that like delicious food, but it's all packaged up in little containers like this. So you have the Yule log, and then you'll decorate it with, there's some little sprigs of berries and greenery. And here's a little tray of gingerbread men. And here are these teeny tiny mushrooms that you will glue around the Yule log, because that's what Yule logs are supposed to have. And then there's these itty bitty tweezers for picking all this crap up. And then here's the chocolate sauce and the little spreader, and this is the UV gel. And it is truly, like, it's so cute. I mean, it literally says, like, squirrel approved on here. It's supposed to be chocolate hazelnut spread, like, I guess that you would put on a real Yule log. And here's the reason why I don't want to do this on camera and make a mess. It's because this stuff is, like, super gloopy. So, that is what I will be spreading on the Yule log. And then finally, you literally dust it with sugar dust. And I don't know what this, if they're little pieces of glitter, I guess. So this is my little craft. I will put this together and show you on Thursday. I want it to be cute and not a big mess. So you guys will forgive me for not doing it here. But I mean, look at this. Can you imagine? I remember, like, you know, 10-year-old me would have lost my mind if I could have had toys like this. You know, I was making stuff with pieces of paper and, you know, and then I guess it was probably when I was in high school, you could get polymer clay. You could start to get polymer clay, like in just basic colors. And, you know, so I would, you know, try to make little things out of polymer clay, and that, you know, wasn't so great. But yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. And I think this thing cost me like maybe $10, which, I don't know, kind of expensive for sort of a frivolous thing. But then again, you know, for a fun little craft, it's, yeah, Maradam, I agree. Fun little craft. So that's tiny things. You will see more tiny things. I will share my little haul from my advent calendar, and then I will share this. And then just, you know, little tiny things, just Robin, another Stephanie who would probably enjoy this. I'm guessing you're talking about your daughter. And this item is available on Amazon for whatever, $10, whatever it was. So, all right. Now, so like I said earlier, when Jill and I looked at the electric needle this weekend in our pop-up, you know, some of the long arming in some of these quilts was just, I mean, I know some of you were there. It just was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. They were so intricate and so beautiful, on top of all of the applique and pieced stuff. In particular, there were several applique quilts, and they were by one woman, and now I am totally blanking on her name, but just really talented. And just, I mean, obviously she had a vision and she carried it through, and it was just mind-blowing. But one of the quilters was Karen McTavish, and she, on her little information card, mentioned that, you know, she had a series on her website showing her long arming to sort of give some perspective. So I wanted to look at that. But first of all, let's real quick look at this one that Drew had sent me, because this is a woman named Melissa Kelly, and she's doing and I think this little clip is just a few minutes at most, but she is doing like freehand feathers and stuff, and just like it is so cool. So let me switch over to that, and I'm trying to, let's see, is there any sound to this? Ooh. Okay, it's just music, so we won't listen to it. All right, let me find the correct one. Okay. All right. So this is like a sped up version. But like, I mean, she is just freehanding those circles and these, oh my, I mean, look at this. This is really pretty. And obviously this is sped up. Now this shows using the rulers. And this was the part I have never really seen much of before. And you could see how she kind of goes along the edges of what she's already long-armed. Those are those little pebble things I remember mentioning. Oh, I mean, just amazing. And I'm really curious about the quilt she's working on too, because it's really pretty. And this is like, she's going diagonally, like right over the okay, that was the end of it. So she's like going like right across the pattern, and that looked like it was at least part of it was a log cabin, and you know, she was just creating a feather design over the log cabin. Very, very interesting, very pretty. So yeah, so that was Melissa Kelly. Now this next one is Karen McTavish, and I'm gonna just kind of show bits and pieces and skip ahead, because this is literally like from start to finish, I think, from her loading a quilt up and then starting to long arm it. And this one I know also just has music in the background, so I'm going to turn off the sound. So let's go back. Okay. Let me make this big. Okay. So, and by the way, she's got some really interesting tattoos. So let's skip forward a little bit. She's kind of got a long intro. Okay, here we go. So this was interesting. Looks like she's using corsage pins. So like kind of big chunky pins to pin this down. And this is the backing. And because there's no voiceover, because it's just music, she's not really saying like what the purpose of like what she's doing right now. She ends up putting several pins in there kind of in the same spot. And I'm guessing this might be to kind of hold it taut. I'm not sure. Hey, Sherlock. So yeah, so now she's winding that backing up. And then now she's going to do the front. So this is literally batting that she has already pre-rolled, it looks like. And I do know that some long armors, that they kind of just keep batting pre-rolled and they kind of reel it off as they need it, I guess. So now she's pinning the front on. It looks like she uses the big chunky pins for everything. And she's kind of doing that double pinning thing at the ends. I don't know if anybody knows like what that's about. Let me know, because I'm not really sure. It looks like she's got everything like ironed down really, tightly and, flush, carefully pressed so that there's no bubbles and stuff. And then she's winding it back up, like as backwards, right? So we're seeing the back of it. and then she's unwinding the backing again. And I guess this is where she's gonna sandwich it. And I know that long armers kind of have to do this a little bit differently than we necessarily would. Sure, she's not leaving much wiggle room on her edges. I'm not that daring. Yeah. I mean, she's got a studio. I think she does. I'm assuming long arming for all of her own quilts, and maybe within the studio she might do work for others. I'm not sure. I don't know a whole lot about Karen. I just know that she had a piece in the electric needle exhibit, and that she had this great video. So, okay, so she's loading all this up. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. So she's getting it all lined up together. Okay, so this is the batting. I guess that thing in the middle then is not batting, but it's a leader, right? A leader is that's what you would pin your quilt to. And it gives you some wiggle room there, I guess. Also, those things that kind of keep the tension on the side, they're like elastic with a clip on them. Let's skip forward a little bit. Okay, here I know she does like a border stitch, a stitch just all the way around the edge to keep it flat. I mean, that's something that if you were hand quilting, you would not do that. You want to leave your edges all free, and you start in the middle because, things can shift a little bit, and you want to be able to spread out from the middle out, to each of the sides. But from what I understand with long arming, you do kind of secure it down this way. And it looks like she's smoothing it to make sure that there's no ripples and stuff. Let me skip forward a little bit. I think she's finishing that up. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. I can see here this. I don't know. I thought that was batting. That's not batting. That's the leader. So I guess you have more room. Okay. Let me skip forward a little bit where she starts. Okay. So here she's starting to actually quilt. And this is the part that I was like, oh, okay. This is how they do that. I was really unsure how long armers quilt with rulers. It wasn't really clear to me how they do this, but it's basically like you're just using a thick chunky ruler they're specifically made for long arming, and you're kind of using it as an edge to sort of push the foot, is it called a foot on long arming? I guess it is. And you see her ruler also, she's a curved one, so she can put that in place when she's dealing with a curve. And I think the other video, Melissa Kelly, that kind of showed her doing the same thing with the ruler, but hers was sped up, so it wasn't as easy to see. But this is how they get the super straight lines. They are not just eyeballing it the way I do, or I would. I do not have a long arm. I have... Oh, here she's doing the edges of the tail. I have a frame that my industrial machine will sit on, and I've done some kind of small stuff, but not extensive like this. I've just kind of done doodly. But it's interesting how she keeps flipping this ruler around to get the right curve. I thought this was really interesting. Very cool. And also, by the way, what is tattooed on her hands is quilting. I think that's pretty badass, But so very interesting how that just smooth movement of the ruler. No, I didn't put the chat back up. I should have done that. Let's skip forward some more. Very, very interesting. For what I understand, those little scissors are like, I guess, a godsend because they're like cuticle scissors almost, but they're, they're curved at the tip and you can just snip your threads. Very, very cool. Let's see if we could find some place where she's doing some filling. Looks like she's got a lot with the hummingbird in here. Ah, okay, so she's doing the wing. And it looks like she's kind of, yeah, she's doing a sort of a fill-in, or just I mean, not fill, but like just around the edges of those little shapes. Hmm. Very important, from what I understand, to pull your threads to the top. And this goes with regular sewing machines too, because bobbins like to suck that other piece back in, the feed dogs on the bobbin. Oh my gosh, look at these tiny little feathers she's doing. Oh, look at that. So itty bitty. Oh, little spirals. Oh my gosh. So this is all freehand. Oh my goodness, look at all that. This is very exacting, I think. So it looks like all of her fill are these little spirally tendril things. And little feathery back and forth things. Oh wow. Very cool. And it's interesting to me how it looks like, because this is all raw edge applique here, it's really interesting how the quilting itself kind of just goes right over that raw edge. And you really don't necessarily differentiate between the stitches that held the raw edges down and the quilting stitches themselves. It's kind of nice how she blends that in. Oh, more of the ruler work. Okay, so these, it looked like she went up and back down on the same line. That's interesting. Looks like there's a little bit of, yeah, she moves over a little bit and then, huh, very cool. And this just looks like more sort of freehand wavy lines on the bird. Okay, I'll put up that's her details there. So it looks like the pattern was by someone else. Interesting. Well, you guys, I learned something. That was really interesting. Do long arm needles have a ball point? I think long arm needles, as far as I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, what makes the most sense, that they would or they wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like long arm needles are maybe like a universal needle, um, but I'm not 100% sure. I do know what one thing that's important for long arm needles is that they are, I think they might be possibly longer or a little bit different than, say, your domestic sewing machine needle. So, like, they're not interchangeable. But also they tend to be stronger because of the rapid, the high speed of long arms. And I know my machine that I have on the frame is an industrial. So it goes really fast and it requires a specific, like, stronger needle. They're like titanium or something. I think titanium. I don't know. Something that's more expensive, obviously, but the brand I think that's pretty popular for long arms and industrials is called Organ. ORGAN, like an organ, or like an organ. And I do know they specifically say they're stronger than your domestic machine needles. They can take that impact more readily and without breaking. So yeah, I'll have to find out if long arm needles have a ballpoint or not. I'm trying to think. I feel like they don't. I feel like they have a fairly sharp point, like a universal. But if anybody knows, shout it out. All right. So, a little bit ahead of schedule here. Let's start reading this book, you guys. Pretty excited about this one. And I haven't done any research on this author. We were coming from Ruth Finley. We know a lot about her. But we don't know about this person. This person is MDC Crawford. And so it looks like this used to have a dust jacket on it. It's kind of pretty. This plate thing. Kind of like, not really chintz, but some sort of printed pretty thing. This belonged to someone named Alan, Anita, I don't know, something Champlain. 1926. Oops. Sorry about that. And this book. Okay, so this piece was on the dust jacket as well as the frontispiece. It says early 17th century painted cotton wall hanging from ruined city of amber, suggesting symbolical cotton plant, Brooklyn Museum. And so here is that again. It's a wall hanging. It's pretty. So that's supposed to be suggesting a cotton plant. Symbolical cotton plant. This plant has kind of pretty flowers on it. Cotton plants have flowers? They must. Do they? I guess we're going to find out. I thought I knew about cotton, and possibly I don't. Okay, so the full title of this book is The Heritage of Cotton, The Fiber of Two Worlds and Many Ages by MDC Crawford, Associate Editor of the Daily News Record, former Research Associate in Textiles, American Museum of Natural History, Research Editor of Women's Wear. So this is a person that presumably knows what they're talking about. And like I said, this was printed in 1924. The dedication is the constant encouragement of E.W. Fairchild over a period of years made possible the writing of this book. So I do know there's a timeline, and I'll go through that because I think that's really interesting. But there's a foreword here. So let's see what the foreword says. Sherlock. Cotton does have flowers. They are called Gossypium, and they're very pretty. Yeah, as many times as I've driven, when I've been down south visiting North Carolina, they grow cotton there. I literally have never paid attention. I feel like a dummy. I always notice when they've harvested and you still see the kind of the dried up plant and then kind of little bits and wisps of cotton here and there. But I know that the industrial, like the modern industrial, they just kind of sort of chew up. Marodin, one cotton plant can have more than one color of flower. That is interesting. I need to take my little cotton seeds and try to grow one. I have a brown thumb though, so it may not. I'm lucky when I can get something to germinate. The cat grass, anybody have cats? You grow the cat grass for them. I think it's just wheatgrass. Like half my wheatgrass seeds will not germinate, and I think, is that me or did I buy bum seeds? I don't know. All right, so we're going to start with the foreword. Again, we are reading The Heritage of Cotton by MDC Crawford. Foreword. This volume is a human record of a great fiber that has played a large part in the civilizations of two hemispheres and across more ages than modern civilization may safely span, and is still today the most important textile fiber. It is a history in paradoxes. Now, what's really interesting is this is 1920 something. The synthetic fibers are really not a thing yet. Rayon is technically a plant fiber, but it goes through so much industrial processing, I guess, that it really is more of a synthetic fiber than anything, even though it has it comes from cellulose. It comes from, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like the pulp that is like a byproduct of some wood and cotton processing, but I think it's primarily wood. It's like the cellulose from wood, and then they process it with I don't know, like acids and I don't know, like chemical baths and stuff, and then they can turn it into some sort of slurry and then extrude it as a fiber. So it starts, cellulose is a plant fiber, but then it all the rest of it really is synthetic. But that's really what they had in the 20s. That's it. They did not have polyester and nylon and those things. That's when you're pushing into World War II. So, we're still 15, 20 years away from synthetics. So cotton obviously is very important. And it still is. Cotton, it takes a lot of water to process cotton, from what I understand. Because they always say, like, the free t-shirts, if you're not going to wear it, don't take it. Because it takes so much, water and pollution, I guess, to make one t-shirt. But cotton is, it's a sustainable, like it because it's a plant, it is sustainable. So I guess that's the modern paradox of cotton. It's a sustainable resource, but it is not sustainable to process it. That makes sense? So I suspect that the modern cotton book will tell us more about that, whereas this one is going to be more about the historical stuff. So we'll find out. All right. Cotton was ancient in India centuries before Caesar conquered Britain. There was a trade in cotton between the Orient and Europe at least as early as the Crusades. Cotton fabrics were among the earliest objects of trade between the East and the West after Portuguese da Gama, that's Vasco da Gama, right, opened the water route to India in 1497. Yet in the 18th century, a half dozen British mechanics wrested the empire of cotton from the East within a vigorous generation of invention. Remember this from the chintz stuff. There was all of that, like, colonialism and trade embargoes and all kinds of stuff. Columbus believed he had reached India because he found cotton in the Bahama Islands. The weaving and dyeing of cotton were well advanced in the New World many centuries before the discovery, yet a single Yankee invention shifted the area of cotton cultivated in the New World within the territorial limits of the United States, where it was unknown at the time of the discovery, and cotton has played a great part since the first decade after the Revolution in the economic development of this country. I'm wondering if this Yankee invention is the cotton gin. I'm assuming maybe it is. The early growth of New England is largely the record of cotton mill building. The early development of the South is the history of rapidly expanding cotton plantations and an international commerce in the fiber. I'm going to go ahead and guess that there's probably going to be some insensitivity about cotton plantations. So set that up here right away. Definitely we look at the history of the enslaved here very differently in the 21st century than we necessarily did in, the early 20th century. So prepare for that. I don't know. I haven't read ahead, but prepare for that. Today, the cotton mills of the South exceed in productivity the mills of the East. What will the future of cotton be? What new shifts in plantation areas and mill concentration may we expect? Cotton was once the principal media of artistic expression. Oh, that's interesting. Cotton has become the great staple of necessity. Will it again have its golden age of loveliness? Will some new fiber replace it in economic importance? Indeed, new fibers did sort of replace it for a while. Cotton has brought wealth and power, poverty and degradation in its history. What will its new relationship be to the social, artistic, and economic history of America? Oh boy, what will it be? These problems are treated in a broad way in this volume, no particular phase unduly emphasized, and all technical discussion, unless absolutely essential, avoided. Okay, so we're not going to really find out about like the technical aspects of cotton. I guess it's mostly going to be history, I'm thinking. At the same time, the point of view of the historian, the ethnologist, the technician, the technical expert, the designer, and the merchant have all been considered. It is a volume intended to be read not only by those actively concerned with specific problems, but those interested in the history of art and technology as expressed in fabrics. Okay. Introduction. It is my honest intention to keep this narrative as free from technical discussion and statistics as the subject will permit. Why, thank you, MDC. There is already a large and excellent body of technical literature for the mill engineer, and the tabulation of economic and industrial facts is easily obtainable and reasonably accurate. And how reasonably accurate and easily obtainable is it today? Well, we would be able to Google this, but who knows if it's right. It is my hope to present the story of the cotton fiber as a human drama, a drama that is by no means in its last act, but merely passing through one of its scenes. Oh, that's interesting. I love these turn of phrase that these folks use in the 20s. Surely, in a brief account of how the ingenuity of man met and conquered the many difficulties that surround the textile art, there is a deep and healthy interest. It will strengthen our modesty to compare our actual achievements of the last century and a half of mechanical effort with the distinguished accomplishment of cotton's golden yesterdays. There are great traditions not alone in the accomplishment of loveliness in fabrics, but in the spirit of workmanship and the underlying significance of effort that are of incalculable value to us at this particular period. If I may, therefore, through these pages, induce men to look again upon cotton as one of the subtlest mediums of art, this is so interesting that, and I don't know if MDC Crawford is a man or a woman, but I think it's interesting how, like, what this person is. They keep bringing up art, and textile art is certainly, it's just interesting to me. This is the 1920s, so. Keep going on. If in some measure I may direct the thoughts of manufacturers and laborers to a better understanding of the psychological value of interest in work, I shall be amply repaid for my efforts. Okay. So the contents of this appear to me, they're kind of going through like kind of the primitive, use of cotton, and then the New World, and then we've got a couple of really important destinations, including Peru, India, Europe, and England. I don't see Egypt. Today we think of Egyptian cotton. I mean, maybe that falls somewhere in here. 18th century, the age of the machine, cotton in the colonies. Let's see, maybe they get to, no, mill building in New England. That might be interesting. Okay. So let us go to this timeline now. And this is just a couple pages long, I think. So the March of Cotton. Oh, okay. Sherlock has the details on MDC. So it's Morris de Camp Crawford, fellow at the American Museum of Natural History and Textiles, with a courtesy appointment in anthropology. Ah, interesting. So, this is where I'm a dummy. American Museum of Natural History is the one in New York, right? The Smithsonian Museum of Natural History would of course be the one in DC, right? I think I'm right. Okay. Morris. Okay. It's good to know that his name is Morris. Morris Crawford. All right. The March of Cotton. 800 to 700 BC. Cotton cultivation and conversion are seen to have been long established in India, from references in the law books of Manu. 400 to 300 BC, knowledge of cotton is first brought to the Greeks through Herodotus. I can never say this guy's name. Herodotus. And the chroniclers of the campaigns of Alexander the Great in Central Asia and India. Other writings of the period refer to the exportation of Indian cotton products through the carrying trade of the Arabs. So, I mean, it really is sounding here today that, I mean, India is the motherland of cotton cultivation. 300 to 200 BC, cotton cultivation and conversion reached the shores of the Mediterranean via Asia Minor. 700 BC, the Romans used cotton tents, awnings, and canopies, compared by Lucretius with the white clouds of heaven. 700 AD, Pliny reports cotton cultivation and manufacture in Upper Egypt. Okay, so here's our Egyptian cotton. The priest's garments are made of cotton. 100 to 200 AD, cotton is grown in Elis, E-L-I-S. I'm not sure where that is. And there are also manufactured into hairnets, cotton hairnets. This is the first recorded instance of cotton grown and manufactured on European soil, but the industry remained isolated. 200 to 300 AD, Arrian writes that calicos and muslins are shipped from India to Adule, an Arab port on the Red Sea. So that's interesting. Like, okay, we've got somebody writing about calico and muslin in 200 to 300 AD. That's interesting. Yeah. Can't see the chat. I know that you guys are commenting. Druid. So Elis is a historic region in the western Peloponnese peninsula of Greece. It is part of the modern region of western Greece, and its capital is Pyrgos. Okay. So Elis is, and I bet it's probably not pronounced Ellis. I'm not even going to try and guess if it's something different, but okay. So we're Greece. We're going to Greece, the Greeks and the Romans. All right. 600 to 700 AD, cotton reported cultivated in China as a decorative plant. Okay, if the flowers can be different colors and they're very pretty, that doesn't surprise me. 798 AD, cotton first reaches Japan through a shipwrecked inhabitant of India. The cultivation was later abandoned. Well, that's interesting. Elis is also known as Elis or Ilia. Maybe it is pronounced Ellis. Okay. 912 to 961, that's a specific time period, AD, cotton culture and manufacture are firmly established in Spain under Abderrahmans III, and also in Sicily under Arab rule. Okay, so this is the time period before the Crusades, I guess, where you've got a lot of, I guess, is it sort of Eastern and Middle Eastern, the Silk Route, right? The Silk Road. This is the kind of stuff that's happening with trade, right? If we remember, you guys, my memory is terrible. So please correct me. Okay. So 1050 AD. This is the date of the earliest extant specimen of cotton paper, in the manufacture of which the Arabs of Spain are said to have excelled. 1096 to 1270 AD, the Crusades, introduced Europeans to the varieties of Levantine and Occidental cottons, disseminate a knowledge of cotton goods, and initiate first an industry in the Crusader states of Asia Minor, and later a lively trade in cotton goods between the Italian city-states and Asia. Okay, so this is the rise of the area around Italy, I guess. 1200 to 1300 AD, the Tartars introduced cotton cultivation and use into China. This knowledge is afterwards introduced into Korea. Okay, but didn't we have something going on in China earlier? Okay. All right. 600 to 700, China's using it as a decorative plant. But the Tartars introduce, I guess it's use. So, use in paper making. They're not clear because it's only paper so far. It's not fabrics necessarily. Except, no, wait a minute. The Greeks or the Romans. Where did we see that? No. The Romans. Okay. 700 BC or 70 BC. The Romans are making cotton tents and awnings. So they would have been weaving with that, right? Okay. 1200 to 1300 AD. The earliest references to cotton appear in contemporary French and English writings. Cotton was first used for candle wicks in England and also as trimming for doublets. So they're not making any clothing out of it. They're just using it as trimming and candle wicks. In France, cotton seems to have been used to make hats. Other references of the same period mention cotton as used in the form of a defensive pad in warfare and also as part of fortifications. Okay, so clumps of cotton, I guess, used as like batting. And remember when we read, I think it was Avril Colby's book, she did talk about that, the padding in armor. But my question is, okay, in France, cotton seems to have been used to make hats. Well, like how? You can't felt with cotton, so it had to have been processed into something, some sort of like thread or string, I would think. And so then the question is it woven? Is it knitted? What are they making with it? 1200 to 1300 AD also, Barcelona flourishes as a cotton manufacturing center, specializing in cotton sailcloth and fustians. Okay, so this is definitely woven. 1320 AD, Oppel claims that Ulm in Germany is the first place in Central and Northern Europe where cotton is spun and woven. Okay. Venice claims the honor for Europe. 1350 to 1400 AD. Cotton cultivation reaches the Balkan Peninsula through the invasion of the Ottoman Turk. I mean, 1300s and 1400s, I mean, we're getting up into, eras where it surprises me that cotton wasn't more ubiquitous, I guess. I'm thinking like, I guess wool. I mean, the British Isles, at least, they were using wool for everything. And linen, I guess linen is the other thing. Okay. 1375, English literary references indicate that cotton goods were being imported as a usual thing. Okay. 1492, Columbus discovers cotton in the Bahamas. On his return trip, Europe gets its first glimpse of Sea Island cotton. Now, Sea Island cotton is very interesting to me because supposedly the seeds will come out of it easier. And I think it's maybe it's a longer staple cotton, but it's very lustrous from what I understand. And I've not seen like the cotton bowls. I don't know. I might have something made of Sea Island cotton. I don't know, but it's highly spoken of from what I've read. 1520, Magellan reports cotton in Brazil. 1500, Ghent and Bruges are famous for their printed cotton goods. I mean, these are the time periods now when we've got stuff going back and forth. 1592, the Portuguese reintroduced cotton into Japan. That's amazing to me. Almost 1600, and Japan is just getting cotton again. And I mean, you think about cotton manufacture, like fabrics and things, Japanese cotton is very, very nice. Kind of puts some of our quilting cottons to shame. So that's interesting. 1600, this is the date given by some authorities as the beginning of real cotton manufacture in England, coincident with the coming of Flemish refugees from the Netherlands. 1619, cotton is grown by the colonists along the rivers of Virginia. Also 1619, the first slaves are imported into the New World. 1621, which that date is contested, I believe. Sherlock says, so it was 200 years to go from no one using cotton except for decorations and padding to get is basically a printed cotton. Yeah, I guess so. Imaro Dim says, South American peoples spun an almost gossamer cotton. I saw in a documentary. Yes, so the book Fabric by Victoria Finlay, not Victoria Finlay Wolf, but Victoria Finlay, she's a British writer. She talks about the South American cotton, and like they have like a brown cotton, and as she went to this like little town, I think this very elderly woman was spinning cotton. I think she basically told Victoria, like, you're not ready for this cotton yet. Like this cotton is harder to work. Like you can spin this cotton. So yeah, they have a very different species or strain of cotton there, I guess, in South America than they do in other places. 1621, London wool merchants protest against the growth of cotton manufacture, alleging that 40,000 pieces of mixed cotton and linen fabric are being produced yearly in England. We remember this from chintz, I believe, that, you know, this is when the merchants and the craftspeople are unhappy. They're trying to stop the cotton. And then I believe they wanted their own cotton manufacture. 1641, this is the date set by George Bigwood as the real beginning of the cotton industry in England. No, really, this is the date. I kind of would gather many of these dates are probably incorrect. Prior to this date, he says cotton was only used in England to make candle wicks. So, yeah, for real, guys. And then let's see, where did they say where cotton was used as? Where did I just see it? Used as candle wicks. Okay, 1200 to 1300 AD. They're talking about cotton used for candle wicks in England. So we're supposed to believe it's another basically 350 years prior to 1641. They had cotton. They only used it for candle wicks. I don't believe that. 1700. Oh, no, sorry. 1678. Pamphlets indicate that cotton goods are gaining popularity in England. 1700. Cotton cultivation in North Carolina furnishes 1/5 of the population with clothing, the cotton being mixed with other fibers to produce cloth. Every farmstead has its own cotton patch. And I think that's, you sort of know that history. Martyrdom, that sales aren't mentioned. They did mention sailcloth in Barcelona. So that's 1200 to 1300 AD. Barcelona flourishes as a cotton manufacturing center specializing in cotton sailcloth and fustians. But yeah, I mean, considering, they're talking about Columbus and Magellan. I mean, obviously they had ships with sails, but they are coming out of Spain, or they're being supported by the Spanish. So I guess we're supposed to assume. Also 1700 AD, first law in England forbidding the use of cotton in the interest of wool growers. Remember this from they talked about this. MacGyver Percival talked about it in the Chintz book, but I think, if I remember correctly, Avril Colby may have mentioned it too. 1700 to 1793, the West Indies and Brazil are the new cotton producing countries of the New World, are the great cotton producing countries of the New World. 1721, Parliament passes a second law protecting the wool interest in England, fining anyone who wears a dyed or printed calico. 1733, Kay invents the flying shuttle. So this is when we're talking about weaving. This is the beginning of the industrial stuff. 1736, the Manchester Act is passed, allowing cotton and linen mixed calico to be manufactured, while importation of Indian goods is still forbidden. Although the rich ladies, they were still getting that Indian stuff, that black market Indian stuff, thus giving Lancashire the monopoly in cotton goods, except Lancashire didn't have the monopoly because the rich ladies were still getting their Indian cotton. Were sales linen before cotton? I don't know, but that makes sense to me. I mean, I guess when you think about like what are the first woven goods? Would be, I guess, wool and linen. Would wool sales make sense? I don't know. The Vikings used wool. Okay. All right. I mean, I know the Vikings they had sheep. I know that much. They had tiny sheep. I have read a tiny bit about sheep. And I know the sheep prior to, the rise of wool in the British Isles, sheep were small. They were like little dog sized, not the big sheep that we use. Not the big sheep we have now. First sails were likely made from animal skins or woven reed mat. Okay. I mean, I guess really, it seems to me any kind of fiber or flat item, I mean, that animal skin would make sense. Yeah. Descriptions of cloth sales appear in Egyptian art from around 3300 BC. Yeah. I mean, all that makes complete sense to me. Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, where I was going with the sheep is it must have taken a lot of small sheep to make a big enough wool sail for a Viking ship. All right. 1750. 30,000 people in Manchester and Bolton districts are concerned with cotton manufacture. I wonder if they did like a 30,000 people, like a petition. 1753. South Carolina sends a few pounds of cotton to London. 1764. Hargreaves invents the spinning jenny. 1764 also, 8 bags of cotton are sent from Carolina to Liverpool. 1766. Manchester and Bolton manufacture 600,000 pounds sterling worth of cotton and linen goods per year. 1769. Arkwright patents the spinning frame. 1770. 3 bales of cotton go from New York to Liverpool, 10 from Charleston, 4 from Virginia, and 3 barrels from North Carolina. Note, a bale or bag at that time was computed at 200 pounds. 1775 to 1783. Cotton manufacturers in America are stimulated by the cotton goods famine incident on 8 Years of War. That's very weirdly worded. Okay. 1770. I guess basically that Morris is saying cotton is stimulated by the cotton goods famine from the Civil War, I'm guessing is what he's saying. 1779, Crompton invents his spinning mule. So the spinning jenny, the spinning frame, and the spinning mule. 1783, the first piece of cotton goods entirely made of cotton is produced in Lancashire. 1783? Well, that's interesting. So I guess, until then they were producing cotton mixed with linen or cotton mixed with wool, I'm guessing. 1785, Cartwright invents the power loom. Yeah, now we're talking. 1786, 600 pounds of American cotton are shipped to Liverpool. I don't know. I mean, 600 pounds just does not seem like a lot to me. I mean, in some of these, like, where they're saying a couple bags, 8 bags of cotton. I mean, that just doesn't seem like much. 1787 to 1788. The first permanent cotton factory built of brick at Beverly, Massachusetts is put into operation by a group of men headed by John Cabot and Joshua Fisher. It was not an economic success. 1788. A factory is built in Philadelphia equipped with expensive machinery for carding and spinning cotton. 1788. Richard Leake of Savannah announces a new staple and decides to experiment with 8 acres planted with cottonseed. So, okay. 1789. 127,500 pounds of American cotton are exported. That's a lot. 1790. Samuel Slater migrates from England and puts up a factory at Pawtucket, Rhode Island, embodying the coveted English inventions. I think, was it Samuel Slater? And I think the other one was John Hewson? Is his name John Hewson? I think, let's see, does it mention John Hewson? No. But I think John Hewson may have been one of the people that kind of stole these inventions from England, and then it's saying that the Samuel Slater guy is embodying the coveted English inventions. That sounds like he stole information. A single U.S. cotton farm produces 200,000 to 350,000 pounds of cotton per year now. Yeah, I mean, like, those are the kind of numbers that seem like what we would have today. That, you know, all of your Old Navy t-shirts. Okay, 1790 also 3,138 bales of 500 pounds each are produced in America, and 379 bales are exported. 1793, Eli Whitney invents the cotton gin. 1812 to 1815, war with England stimulates American manufacture. Also in 1815, Boston Manufacturing Company founded with power looms. 1820, the factory system begins to be applied in England to the weaving industry as well as spinning. At that time, there were 17 times as many hand looms as steam looms in the country. In 1832, invention of ring spinning. So, yeah, I mean, ring spun cotton, I believe, is what you always see like t-shirts. Don't know if that means it makes it softer or maybe it's stronger. I don't know. I'll have to find out what ring spinning is. So Mario Dim is asking how much of that is used for making our paper money. I wonder. That's an interesting question. Gosh, the U.S. Department of Labor surely must have some sort of statistic out there. Okay. Sherlock has a link. I think it's coming across as a broken link to me, but let's see if I can copy it out of this. Oh, yeah, don't worry yet. I think I can copy it. Let's see. Okay. Oh, goodness. Yes. So this is the National Cotton Council of America. Cotton and U.S. currency. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, my gosh. Okay. So it looks like fiscal year 2009. Yeah, they keep track. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So just for dollar bills printed in fiscal year 2009, 2,636,800,000 $1 bills is 4,355,947 bales of cotton, or I'm sorry, pounds of cotton. That's 9,075 bales of cotton. And then they have the value of the cotton itself at approximately 70 cents a pound, and then the value of the currency. Actually, let me show you this. You love this group, best ever at Googling, right? You know, you guys love to check on stuff as much as I do. So I appreciate that. Crud, where's my... Not sure what happened to my other screen. Okay. So this is what's here, if you haven't gone there. No $2 bills printed. Yeah, wow, this is interesting. So, what the total is 21,476 bales, and this is over 10 million pounds of cotton, for a total of 6,240,000,000 bills from denominations of $1 to $100. That is fascinating. Now, how many people would join me in assuming that? But yeah, that's a very interesting thing. So what I didn't point out there is it says, according to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, U.S. paper currency is made up of 75% cotton and 25% linen. That is, there are 3/4 of a pound of cotton in each pound of dollar bills. And that same source also informs us that there are 454 bills in a pound of currency. Interesting. Who knew? Who knew? So, oops. Spilling my tiny things. All right. Are we ready to start chapter 1? Okay. The heritage of cotton. Chapter 1, a general review. The early history of cotton lies in Asia and in the New World, in ages only partially historic and among peoples wholly alien. Well, that's quite a statement. Omaradim says, when currency values collapse, we can piece quilts with useless dollar bills. Yes! Well, being that they are made of so much cotton, why not? They are a natural fiber, cotton and linen. Our first literary record of cotton is in the vague phrases of a dead language. The most ancient cotton fabrics are the remains of a civilization that matured and vanished in the New World while Europe was still a barbarous wilderness. As this delicate seed hair first appears in the traditions of Asia or the marvelous grave cloths of pre-Inca Peru, it is already a finished achievement, complex and varied in technique, highly developed in aesthetic values, the fruit of long ages of development and accomplishment, its standards beyond our latest skill. That's all very flowery, Morris. He might rival MacGyver Percival and Ruth Finley. In Europe, cotton was known but of little importance in commerce until the hardy mariners of the 16th century linked the Orient and the Western Hemisphere to Europe. It had no great industrial significance until the mechanical genius of a few inventors in England and one in the infant Republic of the West. The infant Republic. That's kind of cute. Let's see. And one in the infant Republic of the West gave to English-speaking people that control of cotton we still enjoy. It is today one of our chief forms of wealth, quoted on every bourse of the world. He is using weird words like every bourse of the world. B-O-U-R-S-E. Is that ever? I mean, does that mean area? I don't know. Every bourse of the world. A great agricultural staple, a great industrial factor. It had as well its ages of beauty, still preserved for us in priceless webs of living color. Beyond these lie the misty centuries and vague races who first discovered cotton in nature, developed the tools and implements, methods and processes that underlie both the technique and the arts of today. Put down the thesaurus, Morris. I suspect Morris wrote with the thesaurus. The thesaurus by his side. Thesaurus is one of those words that is so hard, like that and judicial. It's really hard not to sound like you're drunk when you try to say judicial. Say it fast and tell me if you don't sound drunk. All that our own age has done is to make automatic and mechanical movements and principles that were ancient when life was new along the Ganges, when the ancient civilizations preserved beneath the sands of coastal Peru were at their earliest dawning. With reasonable accuracy, we can trace each phase of cotton history as the fiber affects Europe and our own colonial and early national life. It is true that this record is neither extensive nor wholly clear until modern times, but still each phase is sufficiently definite and never lacking in interest. It's all those Greek word roots, too many consonants, yeah. Spain was the first nation of modern Europe to know cotton both as an agricultural product and as a textile fiber. That's really interesting. I would not have put Spain. I know Spain was very important as far as explorers. I mean, they were bankrolling Columbus, etc. But Yeah, it just didn't occur to me that Spain had such an important aspect of cotton history. Um, the Moors introduced cotton into Spain in the ninth and 10th centuries and achieved great skill and artistry in its conversion. What part cotton played in the little trickle of Oriental commerce that began after the First Crusade is difficult to say. There is uncertainty in the names of fabrics and the lack of scientific knowledge as to the character of fiber that makes this question difficult to determine. Cotton and cotton cloths may easily have passed unnoticed in the commerce of these and even earlier times. You know, I suspect like that's got to be the case. I really do think that like ancient peoples, and I mean he's talking about Peru, Peru. Um, I really think that cotton probably has a much longer and older tradition than what has been documented here. And I really think, I mean, I've read some things recently about archaeologists finding basically like dust and they can prove that there were fibers, and what they were spinning and all that stuff. Isn't it the Moorish connection to the trading routes? Yes, sounds like it is. Okay. What part cotton played? Oh, I already read that. Cotton. In England, we first hear of cotton in the late 12th century as candlewicks, embroidery yarns, and as a vegetable wool from the Levant, to be mixed with flax or sheep's wool in the heavier, cheaper fabrics of the poorer classes. Okay, so cotton's for poor people. No doubt the traveled scholars of the monasteries knew its true character, yet the common belief lay in a series of quaint legends of which the delightfully unveracious Sir John de Mandeville was, if not the father, at least an earnest supporter. Unveracious. Okay. Cotton was supposed to be the wool of certain mysterious Scythian sheep. These lambs grew on shrubs, each cradled in its downy pod. So they're thinking that the cotton bolls are little lambs. Except for the fact that the stalk was attached to the soil, they were like the little downy creatures who gamboled in the English fields. Fortunately, the stem was flexible and permitted them to bend down and graze on the adjacent herbage. This is crazy. When, however, all grass within this narrow orbit had been eaten, the lambs naturally and wisely proceeded to expire. Both wool and flesh were then available. Short of a fire-breathing dragon, no animal could have been more satisfactory to the Middle Ages. The actual cotton plant was tame beside it. To whom belongs the distinguished honor of this discovery, I cannot determine. Can you imagine? They're little lambs inside of pods, and they bend down and they eat all of the grass around their plant, and then, oh, no more grass. Boom. And then we can get our cotton. It is difficult to understand why Italy, more open in many ways to the influence of the Near East than Spain itself, did not acquire some skill in cotton spinning and weaving. However, today, Italy does have a place, at least in cotton thread manufacture. I believe that, I know it's one of the major thread companies has like factories in, yes, Orifil. Yeah, I think Orifil, but Sulky too. I think Sulky has theirs in Italy. This is the same time that spice merchants were telling people that cinnamon was from firebird nest high on mountains, right? Yes. So we've got little lambs, and we've got all kinds of. I love the Middle Ages for the weird notions that they had. Her artisans drew a rich inspiration from the Eastern arts and had learned how to weave silk and eventually how to raise the delicate little moths and supply her own raw material. France, Flanders, and even England acquired in time some degree of Italian skill in this apparently equally difficult medium of expression. This again is so interesting because he's not talking about these trades as, skilled trades. He's talking about this like it's art. that, like weaving is art, which it is. But it's really interesting that he's taking that, that position on this. But cotton eluded those masters of the loom for centuries. It may have been that in cotton weaving, spinning, and dyeing, there were technical difficulties a little beyond their power. So cotton is a shorter staple, certainly, than these other fibers. At least we know that when Europe, a few centuries later, with greater skill and knowledge, attempted to produce all cotton fabrics in competition with India, they met with failure until the machine age. There is rather scanty, but nonetheless interesting classical history of cotton. The Greek historians, before the Christian era, knew of the fiber and something of the methods of decoration. Alexander the Great carried back from India cotton cultivators and craftsmen and settled these in Asia Minor. There are even some evidence that the arts spread temporarily to the Greek mainland. The Chinese had evidently heard some rumors regarding the famous Scythian lambs long before the legend was current in Europe, but the commercial explorers of Old Cathay are either not gifted with the imagination of the Moyen Age or were not encouraged by their masters to employ their talents. Okay, I know Old Cathay is definitely relates to China. So Cathay, that's I don't know where that term comes from, but it relates to China. Now, the Moyen Age, Moyen. I wonder if this is meaning the Middle Ages. Hence, they merely quote as heresy or hearsay. Yes, hearsay, not heresy. As hearsay, vague reports regarding water sheep, which sounds suggestive. Okay. Moyen is French for middle. Okay. Well, so Morris, he likes a turn of phrase, just like Ruth Finley does. Sir M. Orlstein, the explorer of the ruined city of Turfan in the Gobi Desert, mentions the finding of cotton cloth and dates these fabrics from the 2nd to the 5th centuries of the Christian era. This mysterious ghost of a city was once a busy marketplace on the old caravan route between the Near East and China. If the distinguished scholar is correct in his fiber analysis, it is proof that cotton fabrics were articles of trade between India and China in very remote times. And that makes so much sense to me, like what we know today. Let's see. Druid says Moyen Age is a French term that translates to Middle Ages in English. Yeah, Middle Ages or medieval period was a time in European history that lasted from the 5th to the late 15th centuries. Yeah, and 5th to the 15th centuries, like those are typically divided up into like 2 or 3 parts. So you have the early Middle Ages, and then the late Middle Ages are often considered like more like pushing into Enlightenment and the Renaissance. So, yeah. I do know a little bit about the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Okay. There are certain stories that the beautiful blossoms induced Chinese florists to cultivate the plant as a garden flower, but Marco Polo in the 13th century and later Arabic merchants state positively that cotton was only known in the southern province of Fukien, and I think this is probably Fukim. They have it spelled Fokien. I think that the accurate anglicized version of that province is Fukien, and it's pronounced Fukim. I do know about some things, particularly from Chinese restaurants in the town I grew up in. Let's see. The plague killed many animals, leading to wool shortage in Europe. Ah, yes. Yeah. Well, and of course the people to cultivate the animals and keep them safe, I mean, you think about everybody on a farm dies. There's nobody to take care of the animals, and well, I guess the animals themselves die. The ones that survive probably don't, unless they go wild somewhere or not being taken care of. So, okay. So Marco Polo claims that cotton was only known in the southern province of Fukim and was then a recent introduction from India. Okay. Egypt in very remote times maintained an extensive commerce with both India and indirectly with China, but neither silk nor cotton are found in the Egyptian tombs until late in the Sasanian Empire, which begins in the 8th century AD. This does not prove, of course, that Egyptian merchants and travelers did not know of cotton or silk. It merely proves that other things were regarded as more important in commerce. So now we know the Egyptians, linen was very important to the Egyptians. That's what the mummies were wrapped in. But today we talk about Egyptian cotton sheets because that, I think it's Pima cotton, I think is the Egyptian cotton. It's so lustrous and so long staple that they can spin very, very thin thread. And that's where you get those 600 thread count sheets. Cotton culture and the arts of cotton conversion, more particularly the distinctly Indian craft of resist dyeing, spread to the islands of the Indian Ocean at a very early date. Java is supposed to have received cotton between the 3rd and 5th centuries through the efforts of the Buddhist monks and traders. It is even believed to have reached Japan a little later, but if so, it left little, if any, trace. The fabric arts of later Japan, built so largely upon the cotton arts of India, were the results of the efforts of Dutch traders bringing the craft secrets from India to the 17th and 18th centuries. It still blows my mind that cotton didn't take off in Japan until it was brought back by the Dutch. That's so interesting. But I guess if they were only using cotton for decorative plants in China and candle wicks in England, it is not difficult perhaps to understand why cotton spread from India to the islands of the Indian Ocean and not into China or Egypt. All people at a certain stage of culture are good weavers and spinners, their crafts well established and adjusted to local supplies of raw material and domestic needs. The introduction of a new fiber or fabric or craft is always attended with difficulty, unless the advantage is very great and apparent. That's a legitimate observation, I think. The arts of cotton only spread when accompanied by a migration of Indian craftsmen, friendly climatic conditions, and where the cotton fabric itself was wholly suitable. Cold climates, cotton not so great. I get it. All of this evidence points conclusively to southern India as the source of origin for cotton so far as Asia, Europe, and Africa are concerned. The discovery of cotton in the New World, its prevalence and high development all through Spanish America, came therefore as a great surprise. Even at this late date, we have not solved this great enigma. I bet we have solved it by now. We have learned, however, that the cultivation of cotton in the Americas, together with the technical development, at least as complex as Asia's, existed here prior to the earliest certain date we can give to cotton in Asia. Oh, okay. So these I guess Incas had this much before Asia. Okay. In a later chapter, I will discuss the influence upon the social habits of Europe, particularly England, due to the introduction of cotton fabrics from India during the 16th and 17th centuries. I need to pull out the Chintz book and see if MacGyver and Morris match up. This was followed almost immediately by the discovery in the Western world of an almost inexhaustible supply of raw material as a further incentive to artistic and industrial development. If there is one thing more certain than another in the history of cotton, it is that its beginnings in both technique and art retreat beyond the veil of history into the earlier phases of human development. The modern mill, with its minute divisions of processes, its intricate and rapidly moving machinery, is incomprehensible to the most intelligent lay observer. The so-called hand implements and processes which preceded the machine, while perhaps a little clearer because of the absence of equipment to control and distribute power, are only a degree less confusing. I mean, okay. Beyond like the cotton gin, I don't like what other, the spinning wheel, I guess, is kind of confusing. I don't know. It seems wiser, then, to first firmly establish the fundamental ideas regarding spinning and weaving. to rationally develop those implements and methods as these mature in human consciousness, then to explain such intricate machines as those now in use or their more direct antecedents. We must remember that cotton, as wool, flax, and silk, were first discovered by people at a very low stage of culture. A low stage of culture. It was one of the many fibers tried that met successfully the varying needs of human life over an immense period of years, and it has survived across ages untold and largely unknown. How did man first learn to spin, to weave, to dye, to create design in its simplest form? What was the motivation, the guiding impulse? As the records and training of childhood in a large measure explain the adult, so in the infancy of the race are lessons of value to the present age. Again, this turns a phrase. Each civilization has the happy and wholly satisfactory habit of regarding itself as the culminating epoch of all culture. It is true that each period contains some traces of all the achievements and visions, hopes, defeats, and aspirations of the past, but there has been loss as well as gain, nor has the upward climb always been direct. I feel like Morris maybe wanted to write romance books. This is an awfully, I don't know, romantic sounding ode to history. There are many things worthy of retrieving even in our most remote past. No great fundamental history of any art may be truly understood if studied merely from the vantage points of a single epoch. Okay. All right, let's see. Got a little bit more time. Let's see how long this. I think this next chapter might be a little bit too long to read, but let's look at the plate that they show here. So the next chapter is called Primitive Culture. So it seems like it's talking about kind of the different. I see things about baskets and stuff. So look at this plate pictures. So it's showing some pots up here at the top and what look like some baskets. Now let me switch to my other. Okay, so this says prehistoric lost colorware or resist dye pottery from Central America. 2A and 2B are these two. And that says textile pattern on prehistoric pottery from the Southwest. That's for both of those. Number 3 is this. San Carlos basketry patterns produced by non-cloth making tribe. So 4, this says a rug of fur applique from Koryak tribe of Siberia. Fur applique. So that must be animal hides that have been cut and appliqued. That's interesting, if I'm reading that correctly. Let's see, 5 and 6. These say a valiant Indian knitted bag from Central America. Those are cool. I feel like you can still buy tourist versions of stuff like that in some Central American and South American countries. Number 7, Pima baskets showing weaving pattern by non-cloth making people. 8, A and B, are etched bark belts from New Guinea. Those are really interesting. Those faces in there. That's very cool. Let's see. So etched bark belts. Detail of decoration, interior of a chief's house in New Guinea. It looks like there's some things on the wall here. These cross beams up there look like they're very intricately carved. This man, am I looking at the right one? 10. Yes, tattooed Marquesas Islander. Where are his tattoos? Looks like they're on his legs. Maybe on his arms. But you can definitely see them on his legs. 11. Samoan fabric of pounded bark known as tapa, showing textile design produced by non-weaving people. This is really interesting. I mean, the Hawaiian Islands, in various areas in Polynesia, they use the tapas cloth, and they're so interesting how they do this and what it turns out like. This is Samoan implements used to pound paper, mulberry bark, and print patterns. And then this is tapa cloth. And I mean, look at that. It looks very much like something that, could have been woven or printed. Very cool. So somewhere there's a weaver shaking her head that these white people are taking pictures, didn't know which side up on her bowls. Right? Oh my gosh, too funny. Yeah, so I'm interested to see what this primitive culture chapter's about. Then we'll move on to primitive technique. So I guess that'll talk about how they spun and wove, I'm guessing. We'll find out. All right, guys. Well, I will wrap it up there. We're ending a little bit early today than I usually do, but I gotta go pick up a grocery order. There's no food in my house. This weekend, my son was like, do you know that we have no bread? And I was like, oh, I didn't know that because nobody put anything on the list. I have a list. Dry erase board right beside the refrigerator. If you eat the last of something or you see something is running out, you should be putting it on the list. I do. But the two of them are always like, oh yeah, I forgot to put it on the list. Well, this is why we don't have bread. So then my husband says, hey, do you know that we're out of bread? Yes! For crying out loud. And then last night he told me there is literally no food in this house. And then I open the refrigerator and see a ton of Thanksgiving leftovers. And the point was there are no snacks in this house. So anyway, I have to go buy bread and snacks and things. All right, guys. I literally, not a single thing to eat. So tomorrow, Jill and I are I think we're looking at some museum stuff. So that'll be fun. I think it's probably going to be one of the museum tours that she did. I think we looked at one, but we've got more that she did when we were at seminar. So when we were up in Tarrytown. And then beyond that, I think this is going to be a low-key week. No holidays. So I'll be back on Thursday, and I will have my Christmas craft done so you can see what it looks like. And I'll have more of my tinies because I will have opened up a few more days of my Advent calendar. So I might do maybe a weekly Instagram post with those, so you can see them all if you miss an episode. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful week. Happy Monday, and I will see you soon. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your subscriptions. I truly appreciate it. Couldn't do this without you. So take care, and I will see you soon. Mwah!